Yeah, I think recording has started or not. Yeah, it has started. Yeah, you can start, Yash.
Okay, sir, I will start actually. So, hi everyone, I am Gaurav Gupta and my friend Yash Raghuvanshi. We are from final year dual degree students and we will teach you some of these questions which are actually easy, not that difficult. So, you all know about fork, like what it returns, PID. What will this do? PID equal to fork.
It will create a child process and assign assign the return value to PID variable.
And how will you distinguish between child
So,
process and parent
so
process?
again, one issue. I mean, those who are confident actually that the answer is known to you and your. So please try to remain silent. So let the others come up with this tutorial. So you can understand the issue, right? This is the part of the tutorial classes. We are trying to bring the weaker student forward. Okay, it's not about the whole class. Okay, there are obviously some distribution that some people are already confident in all the issues. So those are already okay, but those who are not okay, let them come up with their problems. Okay, so I request everyone, don't hesitate. This is not a normal class. This, take it in a different way. Be more frank and be more free to interact with these TAs. They are your friends only. Okay, so try to discuss with them. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, like this fork PID, how you distinguish between child and parent processes? They return 0 for child process and for parent process they gives the child ID in the PID. And if it can't fork, it will give sorry can't fork. So in this question, given this code, which is an iteration for 3 times, you have to tell like how many processes are involved in the total in this program. And we can wait for 10 minutes. Maybe I think if you get the answers, you can write in the comment section, this message section, and we can see it and discuss later after 10 minutes.
Yeah, I would just prefer that if you are confident in the output, don't write it. Otherwise, everybody will copy it and then they will lose the interest. Actually, if the answer is available, so please everybody try to get the answer on your own. Okay, there are questions in the semester which you'll have to derive on your own. Okay, don't try to just copy it in a blind way. It will destroy the purpose of whole lecture series or the course. Okay, please try to derive on your own.
And also draw the tree, like how you are getting the number of process in this.
Yeah, I think enough time is passed. Let us discuss about the solution. And I don't know whether people are interacting with you guys or not.
Yeah, so anyone, what answer you got?
8.
8. Okay, everyone got it?
Yes, sir.
Can you please raise your hands? How many are confident and got the answer? Please raise your hands quickly. Very few people have got, I see. Only 15. Yeah, Gaurav, please explain it very step by step and carefully, okay? And try to interact with them. Yeah.
Yes, open solution. Okay, so for doing such type of questions, one thing we have to do is we have to try drawing the tree, like whenever they are forking. So when we were in the first like main process, let us say iteration 0, so P0, and if we have forked it, what will happen is it will create two process, let us say P0 and C0. Now as I have said that in the P0 part, the PID will be 1, and like PID will be the contain the process ID of the child, and in C0 it will be 0. So this C0 will print like child process 0, and P0 will print parent process 1, 0. And similarly these things will continue. So for this P0, now iteration I will become 1, and it will like make P1 and C1 in when it will fork. Just focus on the parent process only. So then again when P1 will print parent 1, and when we call again for, yes, go upside second. Yes. Yeah, so here like you can see whenever any iteration, yeah, question only. Whenever any iteration is going for I equal to 1, it will first see PID equal to fork. Mostly we will not get less than 0. If we are getting it, it can print sorry cannot fork, but in our cases it won't be there. And then for the child process, this PID will become 0, and for the parent process it will print parent. So say for iteration 0, it will first do the fork. We will get P0 C0 like we have seen in the diagram, and then for the child process it will print child 0, and parent process it will print parent 0, and again these things will continue for the next iteration. So if we are focusing only on the parent process, then the iteration I will become 1, and again it start to fork. So it will fork into P1 C1, and if you focus like P1 will print parent 1, and similarly again they will fork, so P2 and C2 will be there, and this will print parent of 2. In such type of questions you have to focus, like if you want to count how many processes are created, you have to see how many paths are there from root to leaf, and any leaf is actually a process, because we can't say that P0 is the process because P0 is continuing till P2. So if any process is ending in the leaf, that will be a process. So here it will be P2 C2, and this from C1 we have got P2 C2, like these are from generated from this child one. Similarly from parent one we will get P2 C2, and from child. So here the actual number of processes in the root are 8, and we can also see like what they are printing in the next slide. Yes, change slide. Yeah. So if we run that program, what output we will get is parent 0 child 0 up to like this 14 times. So if someone of you have drawn the tree, you can see that apart from parent 0, each other node is printing something apart from the top node, because it is first forking. So if you count them, you will see that there are 8 leaves and other these 6 these non-leaf nodes. So it will print 14 times. And one thing to note here is, since this is like fork execution, we can't say it will first print parent 0 then child 0 then parent 1 child 1 like that. It can be in any order. So order you can't say, but it will print 14 lines, we can say. The next question will be actually good application of fork, and if you know loops also, how loops or and end operator works, you can do it easily. So given this C program, you have to tell what is the output of the following code and use the same concept of PID. What here the main focus will be on what it is returning, and similarly this loop will work. So try it, it is good question. Like, also I forgot to ask, everyone understood first question solution now? If anyone have any doubt, you can discuss or stop me in the middle, like wherever you have doubts.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, parent and child are two different processes. Then why do they share the same output area?
The output area is common screen. Na see out what it is printing on the screen.
Like it can open another new terminal and print in the new terminal also. No?
Like whenever we are like doing the see out, what it do is it sends the output to the common screen. Instead, like you can say that another terminal, but we are not opening the another terminal, we are just creating same process copy, and the output happens on the same screen, that is output screen, which is completely different from what process is running. Like they are not related, output part is different from that. But
Okay, then
if
okay, sir. Then when will the fork call will fail?
it happens because of internal issues, I guess. Mostly if the computer can't create, like if the CPU can't create a new process, or some stack overflow is there, or some other internal issues. But in most of our questions it won't fail. But in practical cases it can fail anytime.
Yeah, what was the query? What was the query from the person?
When will fork fail?
Yeah, just to understand, fork is a system call, right? So fork is basically a function call. Sorry, it's not a system call. So actual system call is there inside fork, and that you know what is a system call. So ultimately, fork will do what? Fork will call that system call, will issue the system call, and will hand over the control over to the operating system. Recall our previous classes, initial classes. It's a very interesting and complicated situation. So now that system call will do what? Will try best to utilize the operating system facilities to optimize the performance or optimize the resource usage in the computer, right? So what is the resource? What is the main resource that is necessary first of all? Okay, so fork is going to create the process, that is the target. So for that, it will have to copy the whole process executable code to a new memory area. It will have to create a new process first of all, right? That has to be allocated. The memory allocation has to be done. But if memory is not available, what will happen in that case? Say if the memory is already full, okay, there are many processes created, memory is already full, so the fork will fail. Other things may happen. For example, the fork did not get the necessary file handler. So you need to actually allocate all the resources which are already there in the parent process. Okay, so those things also have to be copied. So you need more memory and more resources. If the resource is not available, then definitely fork will fail. It will not allow to create it. Now also it may happen that number of processes has exited, although memory is available, but number of processes have exited or number of file handler have exited. It cannot create a new thing. So there are many reasons actually of failing. Okay, if anything happens, it will stop. Then -1 will be returned, right? It will be returning some negative value. Usually it return some negative value, and the fork that will return to the child process will return 0, and in the parent process it will return what? It will return the PID of the new process, right? So the fork will return in two places. This is the interesting issue. The fork will be called by one process, so it will be simply like a function call, but it will be returning as if the process, the child process was there earlier, and the new process was executing the process using executing the code, and it is now in the same line where the fork is there. Let's imagine a little bit. So at that line of execution, things will be copied. Up to that execution, things will be copied. Okay, so that means what? If you have created some variable earlier in the previous line, all these values will be intact in the child process also. So that is also one possible way to communicate from this parent process to child process. I think these things are actually lab part. I hope it is covered in the lab or have been discussed in details. So these are the interesting parts actually. You have to understand that things are copied. So there may be obviously situation where things may fail. Okay, fine, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
Just one thing, like what experiments you have done in lab, like which programs?
Like
Anyone?
creating a child process to read the data from a file.
Mm-hmm. And only pipe
Hello. Have anyone tried this question?
Yes. Yes.
So just raise the hand. I am giving 2 more minutes. Try it. Okay. Hello. So how many people are getting output? Okay, so let's move on to this solution. So one thing you need to know about when you are doing OR, like before doing this for, just consider this is a statement 1 and this is a statement 2. So whenever we are doing OR operation, what is one thing you need to note, that suppose you are getting true value from this statement 1. So, and this is a OR statement. So it won't go for the other statement to check. It will directly come into this loop. But if here it is getting false value, so it have to check whether this is false or true. This is the concept what you have to follow here. So what here you can see is this fork. Suppose this fork will generate two processes, first child and parent. So the PID value of child will be 0 here. So it is, so sorry, for parent process it will be greater than 0. So it's true value here. So it won't go and check this fork. It will directly come to here. So what you can see here is it is parent, generate two processes. It will be parent and child C1. So it won't go for this fork. It will directly get inside this loop and generate two processes by forking. So here you can see it here. But suppose if for this, if it is a child process, so fork of this will PID, this will return 0. So it have to check whether this is 0 or 1. So for suppose child process, it will generate two process again, child and again another parent. So for child it is 0. So total value of this will be false. So it won't go here. It will directly come here and print 1. But in case it was greater than 0, so we have this greater than 0 and 0, or of both will be greater than 0. So it is true. So it will come to here and again generate two processes. So total number of times one generator will be 5. Suppose there it is what we have, like as previously Gaurav said, that you have to count only leaves, like how many leaves you are getting. Okay, so total leaves you are getting is 5. So total there will be the 5 number of times one will be generated. And you can also see this explanation if you are having any doubt, and you can also ask if you are having any type of confusion. Any questions?
Sir, can you explain how the tree is formed?
Yeah. Initially, what happens is it will come, like suppose from initial, like int main, it will directly come to here. So first statement which it will see is this fork. Okay. So what this fork will do, it will create child process and another is parent process. Okay. So for child process, as you have studied earlier, that the PID will be 0. Okay. So this child process will be generated. So PID will be 0. And what I have earlier said, that if it is a OR operator and you are getting the first statement as a false, so it have to go and check the other statement whether it is false or true. So what it will do here, it will go to this fork. So this for again we generate two processes. First is child and another is parent. So for child process, this total value of this thing will be 0. Okay, so it won't go for further. Okay, it will directly return 0, like after printing one it will return. Okay, but in case if this will be the parent process, like suppose this will be having the PID of its child, so which is greater than 0. So here you are having this thing greater than 0, and previously this thing was 0, that's why it came here. So total boolean value of this will be true, that's why it will come to here. Like here now we are at this point and we are doing a fork again, so it will generate two processes again. First is C4, and the PID of this will go to the parent, and this will be another process. So that's why this thing happened. But as I said previously, that if for this case, like till now we have I have explained this thing, and now for this thing, if it is 1, okay, like it is greater than 1, so this will be true. So it won't go and check this one, because it is OR operator and we already got the true. So why it doesn't matter whether here it will be true or false, because total value will be true only. So it will directly go here and again generate two process. First is child and this is parent. So that's why this will be happen, like this thing will be happen with OR operator, and for AND operator there will be another thing which I will explain again in further slides. So if it is cleared or not? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I guess many of you got understand this thing. So let's move on to the another question of this type. So you are having this code, and you can you have to draw the tree and try to give output. What type of output you are getting? It will be little bit complex, but not that complex. You can do it.
Sir,
Yes.
for the previous question, when I run in the terminal, it is printed in two separately, sir. Once see the photo I attached in the chart.
Yeah. This second thing you are asking, second output you are saying.
Yes, sir. Why it is printing separately, sir?
It's actually it should not print that thing. It should print it 5 times now. maybe fork is getting failed in this case due to some reason. But run it again.
Sir, it was getting printed 5 times only, but because the parent process died, she got a terminal again. You could see there are 5 lines.
Yeah, it should print 5 lines because there may be chances that the fork is getting failed because of that. There's only you may be getting this type of output, but it's true that it should print 5. Can I move to this third question?
Yes, sir.
And for these questions, like at least for before you are doing, don't run them and give answers. Try to solve it by drawing the tree. Arey yes, Mike.
So,
Yes.
sir, in this program, we have to print the output.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your order may be different for
Yeah. Order will be different.
Yes,
Like
sir.
as Gaurav said previously that order can be different. It's not necessary that it will run sequentially, which you can see in the code, but it won't be there. Okay, so order will be different, but try to solve it by your brain, but not code, not just run it in terminal.
Sir,
Okay.
in exam we can write any order, right?
Yeah, you can write any order.
Yeah, you can write in
So
any order, but
here is one nice issue that these people have already went through, that scheduling mechanisms. Okay, so you know about scheduling. So here comes the role of the scheduler. Okay, so you should try to convince yourself that if you have 10-20 different processes, thousands of processes, the order in which the processes are supposed to run, you don't have a control over that. Okay, you can recall the last lecture. So there I was trying to again stress on this fact that you'll have to write your program in a way so that there is no problem in the ordering, in the difference in the ordering. Okay, if any order is taken by the scheduler, it should run perfectly, and that responsibility goes partially to the programmer as well as partially to the operating system supports, right? So that is the synchronization issue. Okay, that is the beginning of the synchronization issue, which you already discussed the introduction part, right? So I think you should try to match with whatever you are seeing here, or the issue that you are seeing, the ordering. There is the issue of ordering, right? So whenever there are multiple processes, this fork is creating child processes which are independent processes. They are not threads. Even thread also, they will have similar issues. But whenever we have something different entity to schedule, the scheduler who is in charge of doing all these issues, all these things are free, and that is an independent entity. Okay, so that will not care about which order you want. That will select the order based on its own policies, right? So that is the thing you are seeing here. Okay, try to focus here and try to understand, try to match with whatever you have learned and what you are seeing here. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Also, if you are getting confused about ordering, try to do in this way. Focus on one process and how it is ending. Just go to its leaf and then focus on other process, how it will end. In that way, you will not get confused and
Just
can draw
draw the
it
graph.
easily. Yeah, tree drawing.
Hello. Have you tried this one?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so should I go for explanation part? So here. So as you can see that here you will go for here, it will fork. So what it will do, it will generate two, like first will be child and second will be parent. So PID of child will be 0, as I've said earlier. So if for this loop, if this is 0, so it is false, so it won't go inside, so it will directly go to the else part. So it will print 3 and after it will print 4. So output of this part will be 3 and 4. Okay, but for this case, the PID of child will be in the parent process. Okay, so this is positive, so that's why it will be true. So it will go and get inside this loop. So here there will be two things, not a fork. What not a fork means, like whatever it is in the normal fork, it will be reverse of it. So for child process it will be run, and for parent process it will go for the else part. What you can see here, like if it is parent process, so PID of there will be greater than 0, but not of parent, not of that will be 0. So that's why it will go here and it will not proceed further. Okay, so it will print 2 and then print 4, come out of this loop and print 4. Okay, but for child process it is 0, not of 0 will be 1. Okay, so it will get inside this loop and again fork two process. So here it will print 1 and then finally it will print 4. So you can see that totally there are 4 processes. So here you can see like it is not necessary that you will get this type of output only, because it is considered by selecting from left to right. Okay, so here in left you are getting 2 4 and here you will get 1 4, here 1 4 and here 3 4. So you can also read the explanation. If you are having any doubt, please ask.
Output could be anything. Like
Yeah,
I can start
but
1 1 2.
but this 2 4 1 4 1 4, like suppose for each process this will be you should like output will be anything, just not necessary that it will be same thing. Okay, so any other doubt? Anyone? So I'm moving to the fourth problem. It is also similar type. I think this will be easy for you guys, little, because I've explained earlier same thing. Just try it. Okay,
Hello, Jagadish. Your query is resolved or not? Jagadish, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes.
Okay. So Yash and Gaurav, try to manage the time properly because we'll have to also cover some thread programming related issues, right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Have anyone tried this question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So I should go to the solution part. So before moving to solution part, you should know one thing, that as I explained for the OR operator, there is another thing which similar thing with AND operator also. So what suppose this what we can see that forget about this fork and this fork. Suppose there is statement 1 and statement 2. So if there is an AND operator, so and if you're getting here is false, so it won't go and check this other part because it is false. Whatever it is here, like whether it is true or false, the total value of this will be false. But if it here it is true, so it have to check that whether it is false or true to get the total boolean. So that's what the concept here. So coming to here, so initially there is a parent. Okay, so we are doing the fork, so it will fork two process. First is child and another is a parent. Okay, so for, as I said, the for child process, the PID will be 0. So as it is 0, so it won't go and check for all this. So it won't even go at this loop. So it will directly print 2 and return. So that's why it is not extended further. Okay. So for this case, but PID is greater than 0. So it have to check like whatever it is here. So what it will do is like it will also fork. Okay. So you will get 2. First is child process and another is this process. So for parent process, it is greater than 0. So not of this will be 0. So it won't even, again it won't go for further, and it will directly print 2 and get out of this. Okay, so it won't extend. So for this part for child, it is 0. So not of 0 will be 1. So for this 1 and 1, it will be 1. So it will get inside this loop. So here again, as we have done the previous part, so we are at this point now, right now. So it will fork. So if it is 1, so it won't go and check here. So like we can see, it is 1 here for this child C2. It is 1 here. So it will directly come here, this fork, and fork 2 child processes. Okay. So this thing will be over here. But in case if it is 0, so it have to check whether this is 0 or 1. So it will do the same thing. If it is 0, so it won't go and extend further. It will come out of this loop and print 2. But if it is 1, so the OR of this 0 and this 1 will be 1. So now we are at C3, this point. So it will again fork 2 processes and generate C3, C6. So in total, how many processes we are getting is this leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in total, we are getting 2 printed 7 times. So any doubts till now? Hello.
No, sir.
Same answer.
Okay. If anyone is getting a wrong answer, so please ask. Or if anyone is not understanding this concept, please ask.
Sir, in exam, making this tree would be sufficient, or do we have to explain?
No, yeah, making this tree will be sufficient. You can explain it also, and
yeah, you'll have to explain. Obviously, you'll have to explain a little bit. Okay. So drawing the tree will be obviously a part of the question, but then you'll have to answer what is exactly asked. Okay, maybe drawing the tree is not the exact question, but it's a part of the overall question. Okay, so just read the question properly and then answer it. Okay.
so now moving to the another question. It is also an interesting problem. So it will be a nice problem. So you can solve it.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir.
Sir, in generally, what are total number of processes in previous question?
In this question?
Yeah, like in these type of questions, what are total number of processes?
It depends. Like suppose if there is, if you can, like if this only fork for 100 times, so there will be 2 to the power 100. Okay. -1. Okay. 2 to the power 100 -1. But if this is if this is and or operator, so it depends whether, like, suppose as I have told you earlier, that if it is an or operator, so if we are getting a parent here, so the PID of this will be greater than 1, so it won't go and check for this fork, it will directly come into this loop. But if it is 0, so it will become here. So like it depends, like whatever it is here, like if I remove this and the output will be changed, the number process will be changed. Okay, so it depends on what type of code we are writing, like what we are including, what type of operators we are using. Okay, so that's why the number process will be different. You can see this is a branch, like it is narrow tree, like. Okay, so it depends on what type of operator we're using. Okay, so I guess this thing it will be clear also. Just give some minute on this question also.
So can we do some questions on multi-threading?
Yeah. Okay, so
Okay, yes, you can move to question 6 first, and we can do it later.
Yeah, let us move to the multi-threading issues.
So this is a simple question where you have to just answer like which of the statements are true or false based on the user level threads and kernel level threads understanding.
Yeah, I think just put some smaller amount of time here, maybe 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes maximum, not more than that.
False, true, true.
Yep. So everyone like got it? Okay, I will try to explain. Like in the first question, So basically, whenever we are creating a thread, there can be two types of thread: user level threads and kernel level threads. These kernel level threads are actually known as lightweight processes, and they are managed by the CPU. And the user level threads are not seen by the CPU, and so CPU will not decide like how many threads are there, or it even don't know how many threads are running inside that process if we are generating user level threads. So in the first question, context switch is faster with kernel supported threads. It is false, because in the kernel supported threads you need to do the context switch, and in the user level threads you won't need to do the context switch. You only need to change the stack part without calling the system call. So it will be faster with the user level threads. And the second question, for user level threads, a system call can block the entire process. So this is one of the problem with user level threads is, suppose we have the two process 1 and process 2. If process 1 is running 100 user level threads and process 2 is running 2 user level threads, for the CPU both process are same, and it will schedule like equal time intervals to both the process in multi-scheduling environment. And similarly, if one of the thread from one process ask for input IO, then it can block that thread, because it don't know that other user level threads are also running inside it. So this is actually true. For user level threads, a system call can block the entire process, because it don't know like how many other user level threads are running. And the third one is kernel supported threads can be scheduled independently. Yeah, so this is also true, because the CPU knows how many kernel supported threads are there. And this is the only reason, like third point, why we have moved from user level threads to kernel level threads, even though context switch is faster, like context switch is slower, but we still use kernel supported threads. So everyone understood or have any doubts?
So first statement, can you explain it again?
In the context switch, what happens is, if it is user level thread, so thus for switching it don't need permission of system CPU. Context switch, it can internally inside the process can change the what happens when two threads are running, only the stack part is different, other part code and this data and heap part remains same. So in user level threads, they need not to get the system permissions for context switching. So it actually becomes cheaper compared to kernel supported threads, because at that time you have to tell the CPU to, like, now in this process we are running thread 2, because the CPU is maintaining the kernel supported threads.
The second one, is it like there are many processes and many user level threads, and if one user level thread requests a system call, other threads requesting the same system call gets blocked?
It means like suppose three processes are running and our CPU has only one processor, so it need to schedule equal time intervals to each like equal times or some other priority based call, but say it is giving equal time to each process, equal time slot. Now what will happen is, suppose in process 1 there are 100 threads, so our CPU is not aware that there are 100 threads are running or one thread is running. So if any thread is calling for input IO, input call, or any other blocking call, then our CPU might think that, okay, this process is blocked, let us give this time to other process P2 and P3 while P1 is doing the input output. So that's why like it don't know whether there are 100 threads running together in the process or one thread is running. So it can block the entire process for efficient scheduling of process P2 and P3, efficient utilization of resources. Is it clear, Sushant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other doubt? So this is just the explanation. You can read it if you have any other doubts. And we will move to the next question.
Sir,
Hmm?
so the pthreads library which we use, that is user level thread or kernel level thread?
I think that is kernel level thread. Maybe sir can clear, but it is kernel level threads.
No. Pthread that is implemented. So basically, we are not working in the kernel level thread actually. So kernel level threading, it's not in our hand. So how the user level threads are getting mapped to the kernel level thread, that is decided in a different way. So we cannot control that from our library. Pthread is obviously a library. So there we are creating user level thread. Okay. Now how one thread is getting mapped to a particular kernel level thread, that is not decided by us. There are some different ways, that there are some mechanisms called k-thread. So we have not covered that in the syllabus. Okay. So k-threading is something different. You need to go for more involved programming for manipulating that also in the kernel level. Okay. So that just be clear about that. We are working in the library level. So that is user level threads. Okay.
So sir, they map them to kernel level threads or not?
Yeah.
Like if
So
we are
we know there are
creating
some
3
models
threads.
like, yeah, we map it like the internally the system maps one particular user level thread to some existing kernel level thread or some or one. It depends on the model that is being followed by the operating system. There are 3 models we know: M2N or 1-to-N, 1-to-1, or many-to-many. These models are well-known models. So I don't know exactly what Linux is following exactly. So it depends on the model that is being followed. Okay. So it has to be actually checked in details what exactly is being done in Windows or Linux. So I'm going to put this actually as a scribing work. So that should be done by the students. I'm going to assign this. That they'll have to do some survey and check what is exactly happening. Okay. That is
Yeah,
the
because
instructor's
in
question.
Solaris, as I know, they are using both kernel level. Firstly, they create some kernel level threads, and inside that, they give the permission to create user level threads. So
Yes.
it depends
Different
operating
models are
system
followed
to
by
operating
different
system.
operating system. Yeah. So here comes the optimization. Like Apple follows something very nice thing perhaps. That's why their operating system is very usable and user friendly as well as fast. Okay. So it depends. Again, design issue is coming here.
Okay.
So let us don't discuss about this issue right now. That how these threads are mapped exactly to a particular operating. That's the case to case. It varies. Okay. So we'll have some survey by some student, and then at the end of the course, we may have some discussion on that. Okay, what they find. I'll assign to a particular group of students, maybe 2-3 students. They'll survey and find it out. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, let us go with this programming. Yeah.
This is like coding level program. So you might have done the simple programs where we need to add the numbers using threads or multiply the numbers. This is just another question based on it. You have to do the matrix multiplication using the threads. So if the matrix size is n cross n, you can try to use n threads and write some pseudocode, I guess. If you can write the code also, that is fine.
So I have shared one link for Stack Overflow. So there you can read, but don't get confused from the reading. Okay, there are some high level things which are mentioned there. You can read it. Somewhere it is also mentioned that pthread is the kernel level thread, but read the full paragraph after that. You try to digest. Okay, obviously I will not suggest you to spend time on reading this thing, but since the question has arisen, I'm sharing this link where many other links are also there, which you'll have to fully go through, and then only you'll have to come to a conclusion. So ultimately at the bottom, it depends on the implementation. Okay, pthread is an interface, right? So how it is implemented behind the curtain, that makes the main goal, that brings the main answer actually. Okay, so you can go through this content. So one more related issue I would like to again explain, that in every issue in computer science there are two aspects. Okay, so first aspect is that you try to behave like an user. Okay, so try to exploit the facility. Okay, so the second aspect is that try to develop the facility. Okay, so the same things are applying nicely for threading also. Okay, so thread is a facility first of all. Okay, you provide the facility of threading so that it becomes a lightweight process. Now, once you have this facility, it does not make sense until you exploit it properly. So in this programming of the threading, when we do the programming of threads, we try to exploit the threading facility provided by the operating system. Correct? Now, while exploiting the facility, you are supposed to forget about how it is implemented. So obviously the second part of the whole story is that how threading is implemented actually in operating system, how you will fundamentally manage multiple threads in the operating system. So don't merge these two things together. Developing an operating system and using an operating system are two vastly different things. Okay, so ideally one who is using the operating system for a different goal should not deal with how it is implemented. So when we implement the facility, obviously we'll have to understand what are the generic set of requirements, and then based on that we implement. Okay, obviously one thing is also true, that if you have idea of how things are implemented, then there is a less degree of chance that you will misuse it, or you will wrongly use it. Okay, so basically you are going to become a computer science engineer, so ultimately you should know both so that you make a proper blend of both the things. Okay. Yeah, so this program, as we already know, that we are trying to write the program in a way so that whatever in parallel activity can be done, okay, to solve the problem, we should extract it out as much as possible and then write the programs accordingly. Once we dump it into the operating system as a multi-threading code, let the operating system decide, okay, how it will be really implemented, okay, how the processes will, how the threads will run. Okay. Fine. So let us focus on this program first of all. Okay.
Yeah, so how many have done? Can you raise your hand or something? Hello? Okay, so anyone completed it? No one. So I can explain. Yes, can you open solution? Okay, so how this goes is like you have to first decide how many number or how many threads you are going to use. Let's say we have the n cross n matrix, so we are creating n threads. So something global we will write like this: hash define max equal to 4, and similarly max threads equal to 4. And then you can define input matrix, output matrix. So we are taking matrix A and matrix B and multiplying them to get matrix C. In the main function, you can create first an array of p threads, then initialize it through a loop like p thread create and join them through. And the important part here is this multi function. What it do here is we have defined steps I as global. So what it will do, we will increment it every time. Now any thread that is coming here is first get initialized to its value. So for if we are sending n threads, each of the threads will be given one row to compute for the resultant matrix, and then they will multiply it. I guess you people are aware about how matrix multiplication can be done. So we need to write that 2 lines for simple code, and this will be done. In the similar way, you can write problems for adding some numbers through n threads or multiplying some numbers and distribute them accordingly based on the conditions. Is it clear? Hello.
So at creation point, it will directly start executing using the function pointer.
Yeah. Like that's how threads work. That is, I think you people have you people created any code regarding multi-threading in labs? OS lab?
No, sir.
Not yet. Next lab maybe.
How many labs are conducted? Because it's already mid-semester, I guess.
6 labs.
6 labs. Producer consumer problem will also not be done because threads are not started. Okay, so I guess you people will learn a lot when you will be solving reader writer problem, then producer consumer problem, then you will understand these things. But for now, for mid-sem, I guess these things will be simple. And you can easily write, just go through its syntax once. You can use internet for like how we write p threads and try write, or you can try writing this and running this code.
So everyone, listen carefully that we have gone through the thread programming issue in the class, in the theory class, at least in detail. I don't know about the status of the lab. Dr. Dogra is taking the lab, but in the theory part, we have covered how to create threads and how we can use it for solving different problems. Okay, and then merge it together. So joining operation also we have discussed. So this particular issue you can you should be able to solve. Okay, so in the examination I should not see that there is a copy, there is an evidence of copy at all. It should not, it will not be tolerated. So whatever you can, you should do it on your own. Never because it is understandable. When you copy something, it is fully understandable. So try to write on your own. Whatever small thing you can write, just try to write on. You don't need to write a very perfect program which will run exactly in the Linux environment or something like that. So, but the skeleton, the major operations, all these things should be ready. Okay. So this problem obviously is a very nice problem where you can do a practice. Whatever you have learned in the class, you can apply it here. Okay. The slides are shared with you. You can check in the section. Okay. So there you can definitely try to do on your own. This program I expected that many of you will do. How many could actually do it? Can you raise your hands quickly? How many could at least approach and got a skeleton of the code this way you can approach? How many could do it? Can you please write your raise your hands quickly? My God.
I think they don't have practice how to write it. But
Yeah.
they can write pseudocode. Even in exams, they will be allowed to write pseudocode, no?
In pseudocode, yeah, in pseudocode only you should write. Okay. Exact coding if it is not possible, but you should write the pseudocode because the concepts are visible in the pseudocode. Okay. So
like
yeah, so
this
in the
only
rest
they
of
can
the
write.
video,
You can
yeah, in the rest
divide
of
it into several functions if any question is there in exam, and you can explain what each function is doing and what threads are doing, and then
Sir,
write it accordingly.
It is as per our list how we divide our task.
Sorry.
Yes, definitely. You'll have to depend on the. You'll have to define the definition. You'll have to actually define the proper way to divide the task. Okay, that is the main issue. And then you'll have to assign to each of the threads this defined tasks. And then the main thread will combine the results. Something like that. So can you please explain, one of you, Gaurav or Josh, just explain this code in little little details in another 5 minutes of time. Please go ahead, explain it.
So firstly, we are in the like what we need to do in the global for writing this code properly is we will define like how many number of threads we are using and what is the size of matrix. So heads define max 4 and max threads 4. This will be used to write a generalized code, and then we have taken like input matrix as matrix A, and then we are matrix B, two matrix A and matrix B we are multiplying and getting the output in matrix C. Each of them will have same size, and then we have defined this step I equal to 0 as a global variable. Now what it will do is, firstly you come in the main this int main part, main function. Here firstly we will define pthread threads max threads. So we have defined an array of pthread which will contain 4 threads in our example, and these 4 threads firstly we will create. We are creating using this loop only, because to write generalized code only you can use loop, or you can create it by yourself. Like if you want to create 3 threads, t1 t2 t3, and similarly we can join them. By joining, what they mean is the program will not end until all the threads will complete their execution. So this multi function is the main part here. Now what this multi function is doing, it is calculating each row of the output matrix. Say step I was initially 0. So when the first time multifunction is called, that is first thread entered in this function, so I will become 0, and step I plus plus, so then step I will become 1. This is post increment operator. So it will first send the value of step I to I and then increment it. and then we will calculate like how we multiply the normal matrix for each row and each column. For every index I comma j, we will add I comma k and k comma j. You can like try writing it on paper, I guess you will understand. So this is the part. Then next thread will enter and it will be assigned I equal to 1, step I will become 2, then I equal to 2 will be assigned to the third thread, and then step I will become 3, and then I equal to 3 will be assigned. So we have assigned each row of the output matrix to one thread, and they will compute. They can do the calculation in any order, we don't care. And once all of them have completed, we can like print the output after this part. And so this is how we are doing it. Like as an assignment, I will suggest like try to write this program in C++ or C, whichever you are using, once before the exam, so that if any other problem comes, at least you people will be able to visualize things like how they are running. This is actually good program for threads, and after that you will study threads or understand them properly once you read synchronization, mutex, semaphores, then you will understand them.
Yeah, everyone, that's a nice suggestion, Gaurav. So everyone should write at least one thread program in your machine and be habituated with that. Okay, at least that will help you a lot in the examination. Okay.
Sir, in exam we can use either C or C++, right?
Yeah, whatever. It's language independent.
Yeah, you can write pseudocode also. So
just can you please send these slides and last class slides?
Last class slide was on synchronization. Okay, that is not.
No, sir. Tutorial.
Last tutorial class.
Okay. Yeah, that will be supplied. Yeah, that will be shared with you.
Okay, so we have also skipped one fork question. So you can try that also and try other questions and read the explanation. It is explained there. Okay, sir.
Yeah, nobody should leave. Nobody should leave. Okay, I'll have to download the attendance and upload it. Wait. So Gaurav and Yash, you can upload this slide. Okay, in the class material section. Okay, just mention the name tutorial 1, tutorial 2. Tutorial 1 will be uploaded by Chandra. Just mention tutorial 2.
Sure, sir.
So let me download the attendance and upload it. Again, Kushagra Gupta. Kushagra Gupta. Kushagra Gupta is not here. Absent. Udit Reddy. Udit Reddy is absent. Roll number 22. Bharat Kumar Reddy is also absent. 27. Roll number 27. Many are absent today. Strange.
Sir, some are in interviews.
But how that can be adjusted? It's not possible. So Prabhathala Teja is absent. Vikas Singh, that is absent. Vimal.
Sir, Vikas was in ServiceNow interview, sir. His interview is going right now.
But this is not possible. These are generated by system. Okay, I cannot change it. There is no problem in the naming. So obviously the student was not there enough amount of time. That's why it is showing absent here. I cannot make it present. And these internship issues, why it is not organized in a systematic way? I'm very surprised that the classes are well known, the timings are well known. So why they are not talking with the company or not scheduling it in an appropriate way? What is the problem if it starts at 12 o'clock after the class ends? I don't understand these issues at all. I mean, there should be a communication between all the subsystems in the institute properly. Why it is not happening? There is no problem, right? Or there should be a notice from the Dean Academics that, yeah, let us postpone the class at 11:30, let the student go. There should be some systematic way. At least the student should mention about that we have class, we cannot attend it, or let it be little bit later, or let the class be, anything can be done, right? But it needs a communication, proper communication. It should not be done in a haphazard way. We are so well connected these days, still it is happening like that. Wait, so today is so many are absent today. I cannot do anything. I already mentioned 2005, roll number 2005 is absent. Roll number 58 is absent. 50 is absent. Anyway, many are there. Several are there, not many. Today is 9th of September from 10 a.m. to 11:55. Okay, I'm submitting it. Fine. So if your discussion is over, then you can leave, or yeah, one slide is already uploaded. The other, I'm asking Chandra to upload it. Okay. Fine then. Goodbye, everyone.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, there is some problem with my system. Can you please check about the fork call?
I'm not getting.
Like while running the fork call, I'm only getting printed the only one process.
Yeah, Gaurav, are you there? Can you just check it? What he's saying?
Yes, sir. Sujit, you can like mail the code or message me the code.
Like
yeah.
the code is fine. While during the fork call, I should get printed all the process in the outcome, but only one process is getting printed.
Yeah, so Gaurav, I would suggest that take it in a personal call and then manage it. Okay, I have some other engagement.
You can send me the like code, like DM me, and I will.
Yeah, have a discussion with Gaurav. Okay, there should not be any problem.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, Sushant.
Sir, in the thread programming code, there can also be issue of synchronization as well, because we are using.
Obviously, thread synchronization and process synchronization, they face same type of issues. Obviously, and in thread the problem is more severe because there are many common parts, right? So in common variables, if you try to access it without proper measure, then there will be obviously very disastrous scenarios if you don't take proper care. Okay, those things we are going to discuss immediately after this mid semester. Okay,
so we can assume it for now that it will work correctly in the exams.
Yeah, for the timing you can assume it's correct because it's not covered yet. Okay, fine, then go ahead. Okay, so let us stop the meeting here.